I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies. If you mix brilliance with bravery, that we can ignite something. Even this conversation alone can ignite the people.
The time is now to express and for people to believe in themselves. The time is now for it to be okay to be great. People in this world shun people for being great, for being a bright color, for standing out. But the time is now to be okay to be the greatest you.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Kelly, and we are back with another video. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for clicking on this video and checking it out. And I hope you will go ahead and smash that subscribe button, guys. Hit the like for me. Leave a comment. It really does help the channel out very much, and I so greatly appreciate it. And if you are not new to the channel, you're a returning listener or subscriber, then thank you for being a friend. As always, you guys know that means so much to me, and I really do appreciate it, guys. So we're going to get into some things tonight, guys. This is a little bit different. This may or may not become like somewhat of a series of videos in the future. I'm not sure. It depends on how this one goes, I guess. And we are apprehensively approaching this topic, guys. As we all know, YouTube, they are our overlords. I respect them. If anybody is a respecter of our YouTube overlords, it's me, okay? So I just want to start that out by saying that everything that you're about to see in this video is for entertainment purposes only, guys. All of this is, based on my own opinions, and it is derived from research that I've done on my own. I would advise you guys all to do your own research. As always, look into these topics as you see fit and come to your own conclusions, guys. And anything that I say that might displease our YouTube overlords, well, it's made up. It was a dream, okay? So I just want to throw that out there. But we're going to get into a little, and I'm going to say a drunk history, because I wanted to put a little fun spin on this. I have my drink right here. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'm drinking a little vodka soda, okay? And we're going to talk about some things, guys. And so I just want to say that most of this video is actually going to be found on Rumble. I'm going to upload it there first. So I'll put what I can on YouTube, and then I'll post the Rumble link to the full video, because obviously everything that we want to get into in regards to this topic, I just honestly don't think it can be put on YouTube. I really don't. I'm not even going to take the chance of it, because I don't want to get my shit nuked. Okay, so I'll put what I can. We'll pretty much just be going over the brief history of the Rockefeller family and how they kind of got into the medicine business. But all of the more deep subjects, all of the more, if you might say, conspiratorial subjects, all of that will be found on the Rumble video. So if you guys want to check it out, please go do so, and follow me there while you're at it. So I just want to state that first and foremost, because yeah, like I said, it's going to be pretty light work here on YouTube, and then we'll get into some more deep things. We're going to get into some of the links between, government and even, the Holocaust and all of these crazy things, these conspiratorial links between the Rockefellers, modern medicine, oil companies, all of that good stuff, guys. We're going to go over all of it in this video, but it all will not be found on YouTube. So without further ado, let's get into it, y'all. In 1870, John D. Rockefeller founded Standard Oil, and with the turn of the century, he dominated 90% of oil refineries in America. And he was also in the business of rubber, like making rubber products and things like that. And he eventually went on to become America's first billionaire, which was a huge deal in the early 1900s, obviously. So around the same time, scientists had discovered petrochemicals, and it was really just being discovered in America. There had been some discoveries like this in Europe in the in the late 1800s, but in America, this was really becoming a rapidly growing industry of discovering different minerals and different vitamins, and realizing that these companies could make things out of oil, actual physical products, and that included pharmaceuticals. So around this time, the very first plastic was actually created, and John D. Rockefeller, being the, ever expanding and ever monopolizing billionaire that he was, well, he thought, well, I can make a profit off of this. This is good. This is good stuff. How can we make more money? You know, who cares who it harms? Let's make more. So, of course, this is what they did. The discovery of petrochemicals meant that anything made with these chemicals could be patented and profited off of immensely. So John D. Rockefeller, he was seeing dollar signs, guys. He was about that life, okay? He knew, he was like, say less. He had a say less moment, okay? So in the 1800s, going back to some of the history, and actually before we get into that, warning, conspiracy theories ahead. Disclosure, everything in this video is alleged and for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research and always trust your government, guys. Big brother, they are watching you. Shout out to Weird History on YouTube. Check out the channel if you would like to. The dark history of the Rockefeller family exposed. Let's get into this.
The Rockefeller family's industrial and political accomplishments have helped shape America as we know it. And that's great. But real life isn't sunshine and rainbows. Here are some surprisingly dark facts about the Rockefellers. A good place to start is William A. Rockefeller, the father of John D. and William Jr., his sons who would go on to become titans of industry and amass tremendous wealth. William A., however, was a con artist who used to pretend to be deaf and mute while he was working as a traveling salesman, selling completely useless miracle pills. If pretending to be deaf and mute and selling fake medicine to people isn't enough for you, he also had a mistress, fathered several illegitimate children, and even pretended to be a doctor named William Livingston.
Okay. These pictures he's using is sending me. This is great. So, yeah, he was labeled the first snake oil salesman, if you will. And this will come into play because a lot of people might try to compare like snake oil salesmen to actual like homeopathic and natural medicinal doctors and things of that nature. It's not the same. Snake oil salesmen are typically people who know that what they are selling are completely not curative. They are absolutely not good for the body in any form, and they still go on to try to sell people these remedies or so-called remedies. And homeopathic doctors are people that have practiced and researched what it is that they use to cure different diseases, and they actually have experience and history of these things working on their side. So just wanted to point that out.
Livingston. William A. Rockefeller, where the A stands for ass.
Oh, wow.
Nobody wants to be eaten by cannibals, I think, but that might be what happened to Michael Rockefeller, son of former Vice President Nelson Rockefeller. Michael was on an anthropological expedition off the coast of New Guinea when his catamaran tipped over. Whoopsie daisy.
Oh, no.
Rockefeller swam off into the sea and was never seen again.
Oh, wow.
The obvious conclusion is that he drowned, but there were multiple nearby tribes that practiced cannibalism, and in 1969, a Dutch journalist ventured into a remote village to investigate Rockefeller's disappearance and was told that Rockefeller had been killed and eaten. You can't say for sure that he wasn't, and neither can I. One of the first major tragedies that hit the Rockefeller family came in 1951 when Winifred Emeny, the great niece of John D. Rockefeller, killed her 2 children before taking her own life. Emeny, who was a hip socialite at the swanky Greenwich, Connecticut scene, started 2 cars in her garage, put her 2 young daughters in one of the cars, and laid down between them until all 3 were found dead by the family maid.
Crazy bitch.
In September of 1913, nearly 11,000 coal miners in Colorado went on strike
1913. That was a good year for the Rockefeller family. We'll get into it, guys.
Against the Colorado Fuel and Iron Corporation, which was owned by the Rockefeller family and Standard Oil. In response to the strike, the workers and their families were evicted from the company-owned housing. However, the workers maintained their resolve and set up tent communities nearby to continue the strike. That's when guards under the employ of John D. Rockefeller Sr. went in, killed the strike leader, and then began shooting at families fleeing the scene.
Oh, wow.
All told, 19 were killed, including several women and children. John D. Rockefeller Sr. testified that even after knowing that guards in his pay had murdered the strikers and their families, he would have taken no action to prevent the tragedy. John D. Rockefeller, where the D stands for Dick.
Literally, Nick.
Finally, in 1918, the Rockefeller Foundation helped to create the Eugenics Society of Sao Paulo, directly financing programs aimed at breeding out the poor and disabled and making everyone else in Brazil a little more,
I wonder if there were related to Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, who was also very balls deep into eugenics. Weird.
White. The idea of social Darwinism was widespread amongst Brazil's leading scientists, educators, social thinkers, as well as many elected officials, and the Rockefeller Foundation played a huge role in implementing what was called the public health movement in Brazil, which again was selective breeding to make everyone white. Literally to, and I quote, to sanitize is to
How could everyone in Brazil be white? I mean, they're like Hispanic people up there. I'm confused. Okay, what?
Eugenized. I'm Kevin, and those are some surprisingly dark facts about the Rock.
Okay, Kevin. Thanks, Kevin. You guys get it? Home Alone? Yeah, no. All right. Anyways, so yeah, that was a little bit more tame than I would have liked. And like I said, guys, we're keeping it cute for YouTube, so whatever. We'll get into some more stuff in a bit when we drop off of YouTube, but that was interesting, I guess. They were a fucked up family, guys, and still are, I'm sure. There's all kinds of, relatives still to this day that exist and are very powerful players within our government and within world politics and all of the sort. So you might ask why or how the Rockefeller family went from being involved with Standard Oil, which was, a petroleum business, to getting involved in modern day medicine. Well, let me be the one to tell you guys. Okay, so basically how it went was in the 1800s, there were two types of doctors, right? There were allopaths and there were empirics, or as they called them, which is also known as like homeopathic doctors, right? So allopaths were doctors who considered themselves to be based on scientific theory, if you will, quote unquote. Okay, and they used three techniques. Basically, they bled the body to drain bad pathogens and things like that. To cure disease, they gave huge doses of toxic minerals to displace the disease in the body, and they also used very prehistoric surgery methods where basically they would, like, if you had like a limb that had pain in it, like say you broke an arm or something, they might cut off your arm, that type of thing. Okay, and so very, very serious measures, but they considered themselves to be based on science, right? And then there was empirics, who were natural healers, and they used the body's own defenses to heal itself instead of poisonous minerals. They used vegetable products and non-toxic substances in small quantities, favored herbs from natural Native Americans and European traditions, and they didn't use scientific theory, but rather observation and experience to treat people and whatever their ails might be. So basically what was said was about, allopaths, that people used to think that patients died from the cure, as opposed to with empirics, it was said that patients died of the disease and not the cure. And you might ask yourself, which one's better? Which one do I think is better? Well, I would rather die from what is ailing me and not what is supposed to actually cure me. But that's just me. I don't know. What do you guys think? There's a natural disease. You could say natural, or you might say, where do these things actually come from? Where do all diseases come from? Some are natural, some are man-made. I don't know. You tell me, guys. Let me know in the comments down below. So there was this thing that actually got really the Rockefeller family entrenched into what we now know as modern medicine, right? So once petrochemicals became a thing, once they discovered that they could make certain plastics, they could make certain products out of petrochemicals, and then with the discovery of new vitamins, new minerals, scientists were just having a grand old time in labs, cooking things up, making different chemicals, components, and things like that. Well, again, John D. Rockefeller was seeing dollar signs, so he ended up linking up with a very good friend. Let's get into this article here. Let me bring you to the Flexner report, okay? So he went to and this is from globalresearch.ca, okay? So he, meaning Rockefeller, went to his buddy Andrew Carnegie, another plutocrat who made his money from monopolizing the steel industry, who devised a scheme. From the prestigious Carnegie Foundation, they sent a man named Abraham Flexner to travel around the country and report on the status of medical colleges and hospitals around the country. This led to the Flexner Report, which gave birth to modern medicine as we know it. Needless to say, the report talked about the need for revamping and centralizing our medical institutions. Based on this report, more than half of all medical colleges were soon closed. Homeopathy and natural medicines were mocked and demonized, and doctors were even jailed. To help with the transition and to change the minds of other doctors and scientists, Rockefeller gave more than $100 million to colleges and hospitals and founded a philanthropic front group called General Education Board. This is the classic carrot and stick approach. In a very short time, medical colleges were all streamlined and homogenized. All of the students were learning the same thing, and medicine was all about using patented drugs. Scientists received huge grants to study how plants cure diseases, but their goal was to first identify which chemicals in the plant were effective and then recreate a similar chemical but not identical in the lab that could be patented, aka made money from, which is why to this day the medical industry does not like drugs that have basically like gone past their patent. So patents are only good for a certain amount of time, and after that anyone can recreate the same drug using the same components and sell it, you know, for whatever price they want to sell it for. So this is why things during the quote unquote pandemic were demonized, and I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. You guys know, you know, the Ivor, you know, what, that thing, all that stuff was demonized because they didn't have a patent on it, and they couldn't make exorbitant amounts of money off of those types of things. So what did they do? They called it horse medicine. They said that you were crazy if you wanted to use hydroxy whatever queen. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know. I can't say these words, or maybe I can. I don't know. I don't want to get kicked off YouTube, but y'all get it, okay? So a pill for an ill became the mantra for modern medicine, guys. And that leads us to our next video, how the AMA hijacked medicine, from Dr. Daniel Gonzalez.
Balance of medical power remained equal until the turn of the century. Then new medical treatments emerged that were potentially very profitable. The AMA joined with strong financial forces to transform medicine into an industry. The fortunes of Carnegie, Morgan, and Rockefeller financed surgery,
Morgan, like of JP Morgan? Yeah.
radiation, and synthetic drugs. They were to
So we got Carnegie, who is a steel industry tycoon. We have Rockefeller, who was the oil industry tycoon, eventually leading to big pharma. And then we have Morgan, who is a banking tycoon. So right off the bat, we have the steel industry, we have the oil and pharmaceutical industry, and the banking industry, all, you know, somehow in a crazy conspiratorial world linked. For what purposes? To profit off of medicine and quote unquote healing people, okay?
on the economic foundations of the new medical economy.
The takeover of the medical industry was accomplished by the takeover of the medical schools. Well, the people that we're talking about, Rockefeller and Carnegie in particular, came to the picture and said, we will put up money. They offered tremendous amounts of money to the schools that would agree to cooperate with them. But don't...
And just imagine, guys, okay, $100 million, that sounds like a lot in today's money, okay? Like, that sounds like more money than most people would ever dream of. And think of what that is worth in the early 1900s, okay? Just think of it. Probably trillions now. I don't know. I mean, I could do the math here, but maybe I'll Google it on my phone and let you guys know after the video. But $100 million in the early 1900s was put towards this Flexner report and the goal of transitioning medical universities and medical schools into this new way of thinking and prescribing pharmaceuticals rather than using homeopathy and natural remedies to cure people and their ails. Okay, just think about that for a second.
The owner said to the schools, we're giving you all this money. Now, would it be too much to ask if we could put some of our people on your board of directors to see that our money is being spent wisely? Almost overnight, all of the major universities received large grants from these sources and also accepted 1, 2, or 3 of these people that I mentioned on their board of directors, and the schools literally were taken over by the financial interests that put up the money. Now, what happened as a result of that is that the schools did receive an infusion of money. They were able to build new buildings. They were able to add expensive equipment to their laboratories. They were able to hire top-notch teachers. But at the same time as doing that, they skewed the whole thing in the direction of pharmaceutical drugs. That was the efficiency in philanthropy. The doctors from that point forward in history would be taught pharmaceutical drugs. All of the great teaching institutions in America were captured by the pharmaceutical interests in this fashion. And it's amazing how little money it really took to do it.
Surgery became viable with anesthesia and infection control, and doctors advocated expensive, radical operations. These in turn produced the need for a large, lucrative hospital system. Radium fever swept medicine. The price of radium rose 1,000% almost overnight. Another costly technological industry entered the hospital system. A drug industry grew out of the booming patent medicine business. The doctors changed educational standards and licensing regulations to exclude the empirics. Soon, only AMA-approved doctors could legally practice medicine. In a brief 20 years, the AMA came to dominate medical practice. Organized Medicine launched a media campaign to associate the empirics with quacks. The code word for competition was quackery.
So now, the average doctor goes through school, he gets a great education, he has to be really smart to get through it, he learns all about drugs, he doesn't know too much about basic nutrition. I found that the average wife of these physicians knows more about nutrition than he does, but they sure know their drugs. And if you go to your typical doctor today, I don't care what it is, chances are you're going to walk out of there with a prescription. Why? Because that's what he has been trained to do.
Wow, interesting. Love that video. Okay, great. So, excuse me. Okay, so there's so much information you can find on this topic, guys. I really, excuse me, sir, I did not give you that permission. Thank you, though. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Anyways, so, yeah, guys, it's once you start to like really look at all of these things, it's easy to make those, to jump to conclusions, or it's easy to connect dots on how you can kind of like conflate, you know, somebody who is in a certain business, the oil business, you know, comes to realize, oh, I can make a profit by doing X, Y, and Z, you know, and somebody like John D. Rockefeller, who I consider to be evil, you know, it's easy for me to connect the dots there to understand that, like, he saw potential in an industry and he wanted to quash out all other competition, meaning homeopathy and natural remedies, and he wanted to promote his way of doing things. You know, whether or not he had good intentions or not, I will leave that up to you to decide for yourself. I would say no, but that's just me, you know. I have crazy thoughts, so who knows. So let's get into the last video, guys, and then, well, actually, there's 2 more, but let's get into this. This is kind of explaining, and I haven't watched, all these videos I'm live reacting to with you guys, so I have not watched this. I don't know what this doctor is going to say. This is from a licensed doctor, though, Dr. Mike, okay, on YouTube. Again, subscribe to this person if that's what you want to do. What's the difference between MD and DO, which is another word for, you know, homeopathic or like natural medicinal doctor. So let's see what he has to say on this topic, and we'll go from there.
The majority of licensed medical physicians practicing medicine in the US today are MDs, also known as medical doctors. However, there's also an increasing number of practicing physicians known as DOs, which means Doctors of Osteopathic Medicine. Both are equally licensed to practice medicine in all 50 states. I want to make one point very clear before we start. One degree is not better than the other. In fact, they have so many similarities, it would probably take an hour to cover them. This video is going to focus only on the differences between an MD and a DO. The most evident difference between the two is that DOs practice something called OMT, which is osteopathic manipulative therapy. Instead of just telling you, I'd much rather show you. Come on. Osteopathic manipulation is a hands-on therapeutic tool whereby manipulating the body's own tissues can restore and maintain optimal function. And it's a low-risk, conservative measure that can be used in place of medication and surgery. And it treats all types of ailments, everything from low back pain to something more complex like congestive heart failure. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. How's that feel?
Really good.
In osteopathic medical school, there's a heavy emphasis placed on the holistic medical approach. Now, what does that mean? It means an extra focus on the body's own ability to heal itself, a focus on prevention, and a focus on the whole patient instead of just the disease process. Just because there's a heavier emphasis placed on this holistic model in osteopathic school, it doesn't mean that MDs don't practice with this model as well. There are plenty of MDs who treat with the whole patient philosophy in mind. Those first two differences were just differences in medical school training. Now let's move on to residency, which is arguably the most important part of medical training. In order for a residency program to be considered legitimate, it needs to be authorized by an accreditation council. And currently there are
Legitimate according to who? A government regulated board. Okay, right, yeah, because those things aren't corrupted or compromised at all, right? Yeah, we all know this. Our government loves us.
Accreditation councils, one for MDs and one for DOs. DOs can train under either accreditation council. However, MDs can only train under the MD banner. Come 2020, those two accreditation councils will merge and allow residents to train under a unified council.
Great. We love mergers, don't we, guys? We love monopolies. That's great news. So there's not going to be any sort of difference. Okay, wonderful. And in 2020, there was nothing weird going on in 2020 at all that would lead me to believe that that's cause for concern? No, absolutely not. It's all fine. Don't worry about it.
Further strengthening my point that there are becoming less and less differences between the two degrees. Now, how about practicing internationally? Well, here, MDs have a distinct advantage as they're able to practice medicine in more countries than DOs. Currently, about 50 countries allow full medical licensing for US trained DOs, with more countries allowing restricted practicing as well. This restriction stems from the confusion created by European trained osteopaths who aren't medical doctors, but are only trained in manipulation of the musculoskeletal system. However, the AOA has been making great strides in educating foreign governments about US trained osteopathic doctors. Now, what about the applicants? To get into an MD or DO program is extremely competitive, with the number of applicants and score requirements rising each year. It's important to note that DO schools do accept a non-traditional medical school applicant, those who are going into medicine as their second career, or perhaps later in life, or don't have a scientific background. Also, the GPA-MCAT combo required for admission is slightly lower for DO schools, but that gap is closing each year. Interestingly, because there are less DO schools, despite the lower requirements, it's still more competitive to get into a DO school. A couple more differences. There's a 9-to-1 ratio of MDs to DOs out there, with about 100,000 DOs in active practice. And two, a higher percentage of DOs go into primary care specialties like family medicine, OBGYN, or pediatrics.
And that's interesting. Because this was all but eradicated by, this Flexner report, or this, this push by the Rockefellers to basically eliminate all homeopathic or what he's calling these ODs, osteopathic, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same. More natural remedies to your ailments. It comes down to that, basically. Even chiropractic chiropractic. Like, my mom is a registered nurse, right? She went to like the modern day schools. She was trained, all of that, you know, and I trust my mom's opinion, you know, and everything like that. I love my mom, but she's like, she has that like mentality of modern medicine is good. And I have the opposite mentality in a lot of respects. And so she even calls like chiropractors like quacks and you know, and things of that nature, which the term quack was really pushed by the Flexner Report and was pushed by this agenda to drive out these natural remedies and these natural cures for people's ailments, because they wanted to push a drug that they could patent and then make money off of. It's all about the money. Follow the money, as people say. There's all, I mean, it's quite easy to see. And if you just use a little imagination and use your common sense, I mean, I think it's easy to piece together as well. So obviously, yeah, there's less doctors that focus on the more natural ways of curing people, and there's more doctors that push pharmaceuticals. Okay, let's move on, guys, from here, and then we're gonna cut off YouTube, and then we're gonna go into some more deeper territories. Okay. I want to, just before we get off of YouTube, I wanted to show you guys something from David Rockefeller, okay? And this was about population control, okay? He spoke on this in a speech that he gave. This is from Politicophobia 1776 YouTube channel, okay? Subscribe to them if that's what you want to do. Let's see what David Rockefeller had to say, okay? Who I believe, David Rockefeller is the son of John D. Rockefeller Jr., okay? So he comes from that evil bloodline. David Rockefeller talks about overpopulation and population control.
Ironically, however, the very innovations that are making possible dramatic improvements in human well-being are also creating new problems which raise the specter of an alarming and possibly catastrophic disaster to the biosphere we live in.
Tell me.
And herein lies the dilemma that we all face. Let me illustrate. Improved public health has caused the world's infant mortality rate to decline by 60% over the last 40 years.
Well, that's weird.
In the same period, the world's average life expectancy has increased from 46 years in 1950s to 63 years today. This is a development which, as individuals, we can only applaud. However, the result of these positive measures is a world population that has risen during the same short period of time geometrically to almost 6 billion people, and could easily exceed 8 billion by the year 2020.
Which we have.
The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident.
Is that right? How do you propose the UN will handle overpopulation?
The rapid growing exploitation of the world's supply of energy and water is a matter of deep concern, and the toxic byproducts of widespread industrialization have increased atmospheric pollution to dangerous levels. Unless nations will agree to work together to tackle these cross-border challenges posed by population growth, overconsumption of resources, and environmental degradation, the prospects for a decent life on our planet will be threatened. The recent UN meeting in Cairo is appropriately focused on one of these key issues, population growth. But the controversies which have erupted at the conference illustrate the problem of coming to grips with issues that are deeply divisive and which have a profound moral dimension. The United Nations can and should play an essential role in helping the world find a satisfactory way of stabilizing world population and stimulating economic development in a manner that is sensitive to religious and moral considerations. Economic growth is, of course, an inevitable corollary of a growing population, and is essential to improve standards of living. But without careful coordination, unrestrained economic growth poses further threats to our environment. This was a major subject of discussion at the conference in Rio de Janeiro on the environment
What
2
a
years
fascinating
ago.
speaker you are. Wow.
The focus then was on sustainable growth and global development. It was
Okay.
pointed out at the conference that growth is most efficiently managed by the private sector. But regulation of the process by national governments and international bodies
Is that right?
is also needed. And once again, the United Nations should certainly be among the catalysts
Oh, really?
and coordinators of this process.
Should they? David Rockefeller and the UN are evil. I agree. I'm sure they're working on or have a plan in place to sustain the population. Those plans, I'm sure, will not be beneficial to most of the people on this planet. I don't want to wait to see what those plans are. Do you? Wake up, the time is running out, this channel says. So, yikes, on a bike, okay? That's straight from the horse's mouth, okay? The horse meaning the Rockefeller family. And this is, you know, they're globalists, obviously. They are people who don't want to see the good for humanity. They want to see the good for their own pockets. And this is where we're going to probably cut off YouTube, and I will direct you guys over to my Rumble channel. If you guys want to see the rest of this, we're going to get into some more, you know, spicy things, and too spicy for YouTube. And I don't even know if what I've already said or what I've already shown has been, you know, something that might get me kicked off, but hopefully not. You guys, make sure y'all like, follow, subscribe, smash, you know, the subscribe button. Absolutely obliterate it. And, you know, YouTube, God bless, and bye.
I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies. If you mix brilliance with bravery, that we can ignite something. Even this conversation alone can ignite the people.
The time is now to express and for people to believe in themselves. The time is now for it to be okay to be great. People in this world shun people for being great, for being a bright color, for standing out. But the time is now to be okay to be the greatest you.